Hello everyone, Phương here. You have already set up an Apache web server on the system and you don't want to spend money buying an SSL certificate for the web server. Fortunately, today there's a certificate authority called Let's Encrypt that provides free SSL, TLS certificates and is very easy to deploy. In this video, I will guide you step by step on how to create a free SSL TSL certificate using the Let's Encrypt service for a person Linux web server running Apache. This is a very standard process commonly used in enterprise and production environments. Okay. Now we are going to move into the Apache configuration directory. Okay. First of all, we check the OpenSSL version on the system to ensure that we are using a secure and safe version of OpenSSL. Okay. Now we will generate an LLISA key with a length of 2048 bits. We should absolutely not use a key length smaller than 2048 bits because 1024-bit keys are no longer considered secure. 2048. Enter. Okay. We can view the private key content. Okay. This file might look very simple, but we can inspect the internal components that make up the private key. Okay. The next step in this process is to create the public key. As we know, the public-private key pair always goes together. However, the public key is derived from the private key and is packaged inside a certificate signing request to be sent to the certificate authority for signing. We will use the OpenSSL command to do this. This command creates a new certificate signing request using the private key we created earlier. Enter. When running the command, the system will prompt us to enter some information. Among these, the most important field is the common name, CN. Okay, this the domain name that certificate represents. For example, if the server's domain name is example.com, you must enter this exact name. If you're working in an internal environment, you can enter a host name such as server 1 as long as you use the same name when accessing the server. Okay. Other fields such as country, organization, organizational unit can be filled in or left blank, but the common name is mandatory and the most important field. Okay, enter, 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 enter. Okay, after this command finishes, it will have a CSR file. Okay, this file is not a certificate yet. It's only a request for a certificate. If we are using a TLS server for private purposes, such as a demo environment like this, we may not want to go through the effort of requesting a publicly chartered certificate from a CA. Instead, self signing with our own private key is much simpler. Signing a certificate requires produces an S.509 certificate. So we use the S509 sub command. Okay, we specify at H A 256 as the signing algorithm and indicate that the input is the server dot csr file. Okay, the key used to sign is not a CA key, but our own private key. The output file will be server crt. Okay, enter. Okay, after running this command, we will see the certificate has been created successfully. We can view its content using cat server crt. Okay, for more detailed information, we can use OpenSSL S509. Okay, okay. Next, we need to set up the SSL module for Apache. Enter. Okay. In this step, we are going to configure everything directly in the httpd.config file, meaning this will be the only configuration file we need to care about. We will create two virtual hosts, one for port 80 and one for port 443. Okay, looking at the TLS configuration. Okay, we can see that VirtualHost is listening on port 443. Here I am using the server name. Delete New Hô Phương Lab dot space. Okay, but of course you should use your own domain name. Okay, we have document root pointing to HTML directory, which is the default directory containing the website. The most important part here is LL engine on, which means we enable LL for this website. Next, we specify certificate file, the site certificate file, and the certificate key file, the server's private key. We have two configurations, one for port 80 and one for port 443. However, LL relatives only appear in the virtual host for port 443. Okay. and we need to comment out this line to prevent Apache from loading additional configuration files. Okay, right and quit. Okay, and run a configuration test using Apache CTL config test. Enter. Okay, then restart the service with systemctl restart http enter. After everything is running, we can verify by checking the listening ports. Okay, okay. At this point, you will see that both ports 80 and 443 are open. Then we get access from a browser. Initially, enter. When accessing via HTTPS, the browser will show a security warning. This is normal because our certificate is not yet charted. We must click Advanced to continue. Although the connection is encrypted, the browser still reports not secure because the certificate has not been verified by a chartered certificate authority. At this point, the connection is encrypted but is not sufficient for reward public usage. To achieve that, the browser must track the certificate, which happens when you use a certificate issued by a valid CA. This is done in step 5. Okay. Now we need to ensure that some required software is installed. We will use XAMPP to install the IT, Python, and wget. Enter. Okay. Not using the IT, we clone the source report from the IT hub. This the acme-tiny project. Enter. Okay, this will create a new directory named acme-tiny in my home directory. Okay, then we need to grant execute permissions to this file. Okay, this step is very important. Without execute permissions, we cannot run the script. Okay, now we need to create the directory structure for a CME challenge. MK near well known ACME challenge. Enter. Okay. At this step, we create a new private key. Enter. Okay. This key is not used directly by the web server, but is used to identify us to less encrypt. Next, we run the acme tiny script. Its output will be the site h.505 certificate, which we redirect to server.crt. Enter. Okay. We then run the command to see who issued the certificate. and obtain the URL where we can download the intermediate certificate. Okay, we need to provide both the server certificate and the issuer certificate, so we use wget. Paste the URL. Okay, and use O to specify the output file. We name it issue dot dir. Okay, enter. Okay, after downloading, we convert it from the to PAM. Okay, okay, enter. Now we can open the file to verify that is a valid certificate in the type format. Okay, then we simply append this file to server .crt. Be very careful to append, not override. Okay, enter. Note, since the server configuration still points to server.crt and server.key. Okay. Everything continues to work correctly. Okay. We simply run a configuration test. Apache CTL config test. Enter. Okay. Then restart the service. Okay, to verify the result, we return to the browser. When accessing the website, the browser now displays the security icon. Okay, okay, indicating that the certificate is valid and fully charted. We no longer see annoying security warnings for users. Okay, now let's return to the server to input the configuration. First, we check the file. In the VirtualHost for port 80, we can see the redirect configuration, meaning any HTTP access will be redirected to HTTPS. This ensures that all access goes through a secure connection. Okay? Less encrypt certificates are valid for only 90 days. If you don't reuse them on time, the website SSL will expire, browsers will show errors, and users will be unable to access the site. Renewing less encrypt certificates does not mean starting over. We do not recreate keys or CSR. We only repeat domain validation and issue a new certificate. Okay, enter. Okay, and grant a secure permission. Okay, after creating the script, the next step is scheduling automatic execution. Cron tab with option E. Okay, okay. So now you have manually created an SSL TLS certificate, and through this process, you can clearly see how SSL TLS works in Apache, how it protects users from man in the middle attacks, and how to ensure that your website is always accessed securely. You also learn how to configure version ready HTTPS for Apache. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos about Linux and DevOps, and leave a comment to let me know what topics you want me to cover next. Okay? Thank you for watching.